It's showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
A fine Saturday morning to you.
Good morning, Mr. Nelson. How are you?
Perky, wide awake on this fine morning.
On this fine morning whenever Pete gets this posted. Yes.
Exactly. Right.
He's not here. We get to do these things. It's the fun.
I know. And right now we're re-ranking 2001, baby.
No, but we're not. No, we can't do that. No.
I really want to. But...
So are you still recovering from your Oscar night shenanigans?
Wow. Yeah. What a crazy night that was. That was, it was wonderful watching so many great things happen Oscar night. I just kept going, oh, wow, that one. I mean, a lot of it was expected. Like, Brad Pitt, Renee Zellweger, Joaquin Phoenix, Laura Dern, those four pretty much had it in the bag. Like, they walked in, everyone knew they were the ones getting the Oscars for their performances. So that really wasn't a surprise. And everybody knew Parasite was going to win for Best International Feature. But the surprises really came with the additional awards for Parasite with Best Director, Best Original Screenplay. I don't know if that's a huge surprise, but certainly Best Picture. That was the big kicker.
Yes, the Oscar party that I was at, we had our ballots. So I did my research. I went to Awards Daily and looked at their big board of predictions and looked at just the trends. And so I went with, based on what they saw as the majority, of all their sources. So I went with that. And throughout the night, everybody was like, well, after I think about the first 5 or 6 awards, when I was like straight, 6 for 6, they're like, well, what did you put for this? What did you put for this? And so I only missed 3. There were only 3 that I missed. And early on, it was, what was it? It was like one of the sound effects things, sound mixing or something. I got one of those wrong, and then everything else was great. And then the final 2, everybody thought was going to be 1917 for Best Picture and Best Director. So I was ecstatic to see Parasite, win those. But yeah, it threw my Oscar ballot for a loop right there at the end. But it was definitely, I think, everyone was happy with those results. And it seems like now there's...
Maybe not everybody.
Well, I guess...
There's a whole contingent of people on the internet who have certainly voiced their displeasure.
Well, you call them people. I wouldn't call them people.
Oh, yes.
But there seemed to be... was it you that had posted in Discord, or someone had posted that one of his earlier films is now getting a theatrical re-release? What is that? Memories of Murder?
Memories of Murder? Yeah. Neon picked it up and is re-releasing it in theaters, and then that and Parasite are both getting the Criterion treatment, which is very exciting.
Yay! I mean, this is one of the things that completely baffles me of what determines what gets selected for the Criterion Collection. I know they have statements of like lasting importance and artistic merit or something like that, but to me it doesn't explain why there's some things that just haven't made it there yet. So I'm thrilled to see that he's finally getting some films in there. So that's, it's created some momentum. I even saw on Twitter some people had posts of, oh, if you enjoyed Parasite and are interested in South Korean cinema, here are some other films to go check out. So I think it's maybe broadening people's horizons a little bit, which is always a good thing. Yeah,
it definitely is. And I mean, I know Criterion has, they have deals with certain companies like Neon,
yes,
which is why it's getting those 2 films. Netflix, which is why Roma's been picked up already. The Irishman, what were the other ones? American Factory, and what was the other Netflix movie this year that I'm forgetting?
Marriage Story?
I can't remember. Marriage Story, yes. Those are all getting going to be Criterion releases. So, I mean, it's great that more people are seeing all of these films. It's a great opportunity to get them out there. And yeah, like you said, it's great that just the fact that this South Korean film has kind of like taken everything by storm. I mean, my dad watched it. I got him to watch it. And he's just like, oh my God, I love this movie.
That's great.
He totally, it was fantastic. And so I think that, and I'm now pushing him, hey, well, check out some of these other movies that Bong Joon-ho did. Yeah. So I don't know if he will, but it's just, it's the whole idea that, I'm hoping it'll help more people start looking at some of these other countries as sources for great stories to view in film.
Yes, and if the reputation of the Criterion Collection is a little intimidating, you can always ease your way into the Criterion Collection with, something that's a little bit more accessible, like 1998's Armageddon, which does not.
Is that still in Criterion?
Well, it's the Criterion Collection. Yes, it's. You can. It's out of print. Yes, the DVD.
Well,
some of the older ones.
You have to get the laser disc for it to if you want to watch it.
Well,
I don't think it has ever got a DVD release. Did it?
Yes, it did. No, DVD. It's currently unavailable. So some of these they a limited run on them or something, but
it just depends on the deal with the distributor or with the original. The original production company.
And this was one of those ones that, I always thought, well, there's no Spielberg in the Criterion Collection, but yeah, we'll put Armageddon in there.
Well, I'm sure, Spielberg being the head of his own studio.
Right. Well, yes.
I think that he probably is not actively looking for other opportunities to get his stuff distributed because,
that's true.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. But, well, yeah, Michael Bay, because I know The Rock and Armageddon were both in it. And, people quite enjoyed having those in there for a while. And, I mean, I actually had The Rock Criterion Laserdisc at one point.
Okay.
But, yeah, I know. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. But that's what I always loved about the Criterion Collection is that it was a celebration of film. It wasn't just a celebration of art films or foreign films. It was a celebration of films of all types. And I feel like they have definitely had to take a shift a little bit, the way that the market has moved with streaming services and everything. I feel like they might be a little more focused on kind of the smaller films, the art films, the foreign films now, the films that don't get the bigger releases. I mean, that's what they really are having to go after nowadays, just because the way the market's shifted. But they still have stuff in there that I'm always like, oh wow, it's a great thing to see pop up in there in the Criterion Collection.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. The Oscars were exciting, but in the in memoriam section, which I mean, just as the controversy there is always like who got left out, which of course it's one of those things. I mean, it could go on for 20 minutes if we wanted it to, but inevitably people are upset about certain people. But one person who got left off was just because he happened to die in a horribly unfortunate way just the day before the Oscars, and that was Orson Bean, which was sad to hear.
That was one where my wife said Orson Bean died, and I thought, what? And I thought, well, he's really old. And she said, no, he was hit by a car. And I thought, no, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God, just horrible. Yes, exactly. And it was, there was something else that it was like it was like multiple car accidents or something like that. Because he was hit by one and then there was another accident and it caused another collision and just horrible tragedy.
It sounded really terrible. It really did. So that was sad. I mean, he'd been certainly kept himself very busy, lots of different projects of all kinds. And I didn't realize how politically active he had become later in his life. But I mean, he'd always had been pretty politically active. I guess it's just that later in his life, he became a much more conservative in his political opinions.
Oh, okay.
And I think his daughter married Breitbart.
Oh, okay.
Actually. So, that's kind of, I think, and then he actually wrote columns for Breitbart. So it's like, oh, wow, I never knew that about him, but there you go.
Speaking of old things, that's a horrible segue. But I know often we have talked about the lure of Fathom events and then often the ridiculously prohibitive cost of purchasing a ticket for a movie that, well, you've seen it before, maybe not on the big screen. And, to have a little 10-minute segment afterwards, is it really worth whatever, $20 or $30 or just how ridiculous some of these get? But we do have a unique opportunity coming up this March. And what caught my eye about this is a film that has not been on screens in theaters in 64 years. And so this is the original 1933 King Kong, which last had a theatrical re-release in 1956, which, according to the Movie Web website, reminds people that's when Dwight D. Eisenhower was president, and the average movie ticket cost 59 cents.
Wow.
So there is now an opportunity.
59 cents.
Now an opportunity for the low cost of... What is it? Just it's
this is
$13.
I like. Yeah. I'm shocked because Fathom events used to be like if we wanted to go see something, it was like $25 a ticket or something crazy. I think that they must have, and it could be based on area and time, but looking through the showtimes that they have just in my area, the prices, this is what I find really interesting about what Fathom Events is doing, is they must have some algorithm that they're using now to determine prices based on date and time, because for the most part, tickets for adults and children are about $13.58, depending on which time that I go to. But if I go at a different day and time, it might be $13.65. Or if I pick exactly the right day and time, the adult is $11.39, the child is $8.13, and the senior is $9.76.
Oh, okay. So not too bad at all.
Not too bad, but I'm like so curious because it's such strange pricing. I'm like, what is going on with Fathom Events that they have this strange juggle? Because this is something I took my daughter to see, Weathering with You, the anime film. It was a Fathom Events like a week before it had a limited theatrical run here in the States. And so I took her to it, and I was trying to find tickets for the right time. And I ended up paying like $14 for the both of us. I'm like, how did I spend so little on a Fathom Events movie? What did I do wrong?
Nothing. Don't ask that question.
Yeah, exactly. But it's exciting because I'm like, I feel like they're starting to pay attention to the fact that it was getting a little crazy with some of the pricing. Because King Kong, like I can take my wife and the two kids if I can convince them all to go. I know my wife hates it because it's killing an animal at the end of the movie, but still, it's like I don't know, $25 for the four of us or something like that when you add it all up. So it's great. I really love that they're actually kind of fixing that. And what an opportunity to see King Kong on the big screen again.
Well, and perhaps it has to do with the fact that what I think, as I recall, some of these other Fathom events that were a little bit more pricey, there was usually some additional bonus feature to it. I think it's either like a interview or, exclusive stuff with the director or commentary, like maybe a little 15 or 20 minute segment piece, which I think initially was to draw people in because they thought, well, I've seen this before. Oh, but now you can see it on the big screen. Plus, here's this add-on bonus to that. And what I'm seeing here with King Kong, I see they're doing a lot of these in their what they call the big screen classics. Is it's just the film. It's not, as I'd seen in year past, of like where it's Turner Classic Movies and they would have somebody they're talking about the movie, giving some of that additional bonus content. It looks like they're just showing the movie. So maybe that's part of the reason that the prices come down, because it is just the original film and not any bonus features added on to that.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Psycho with through them on the big screen a couple years ago, and it wasn't as expensive. You're right, when they do have like the interviews or it's a special edition of the film, but still it wasn't $11.39. So there's something that has shifted, and so no matter how you slice it, it's exciting, that they're starting to kind of, I think, hopefully get more people into the theaters to see some of these movies. I mean, really, that's the end goal. Let's get more people watching this stuff.
Oh, yeah. And there's a lot of these that, because they're so old, you've just never had the opportunity to see them on the big screen. I'm looking at what they've got coming up. And sure, there's things that I've seen that, I recall seeing on the big screen, like Apollo 13, A League of Their Own. But then there's other things like the Blues Brothers or... Close Encounters I did see. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, another one that, I don't know that One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is one that I need to see on the big screen, but I think the Blues Brothers, some of those car chases on the big screen might add a little something to it that I don't get on my TV. And I just saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Was that? It was the 40th anniversary of that. So that was 2017, I think. So they're bringing it back again as part of the Big Screen Classics, and that's one that's really tempting because that's just one of my favorite Spielbergs, and it is such just that whole end sequence there. To see that on the big screen just is so much more thrilling than on a TV. So I just may have to drop $13.58 to go see that on the big screen. And then I think
now you're talking.
That made, let's see, because that was one that I recall when it first came out. I saw in the theaters the original release, and then they had the special edition version, and I saw that in the theater because I just told my dad I saw like TV like, oh, we got to go see this version. And so then having seen it again, that's probably the movie I've seen in the theaters the most because it's 3 times. And if I go again, that would be 4. That's quite a few times to see something in the theater, unless you're one of those, I guess just compulsive people that I remember when Star Wars came out, there was some guy that saw it like 100 times or whatever in the theater. But I guess, at $2 a pop versus $13, I guess, even adjusted for inflation. But yeah, it's a great opportunity. And as there is a much younger generation that has never had the opportunity to see many of these films in theaters, it's a great chance for them to see them sort of, I think, the way the directors intended them to be seen.
Well, and that's something that I think will be something that our generation is going to have to, we're going to be the ones who have to kind of work at creating the joy of that with the younger generation to get them to do it. Because I think now with streaming, with instant access to watch anything you want, pretty much, it's so hard to get people to kind of go out to the theater. And sometimes, with my even my own kids, like if I want to get them out to a Fathom Events film or something like that, they're like, well, why do we have to go see it there? Can't we just watch it at home? It's such a mentality now. And so it is something that we really just need to kind of keep pushing and work at getting them to understand that there's something really great about kind of that big screen experience.
Sure. And it's even more challenging now that there's a much shorter turnaround time between theatrical release and home video release. I remember it used to be like 6 months before things came out in the summer, and it was, well, you get them on DVD like probably in November around time for Christmas or something. Whereas now it's, things that were hitting theaters like Knives Out, that was Thanksgiving. And so we are like 3 months, and it's not even. It's 2.5 months, and it's already available. You can, buy it digitally and all that. So there's not even that I should see it in theaters now, because if I don't see it now, I'm going to have to wait a while to see it. And now it's, well, if I don't see it now, I can just wait a couple of weeks and I'll be able to, rent it digitally. So it's, less incentive to get out to see it, particularly if, it's something that's harder to find or is, it's only there for a couple of weekends. You're like, well, okay, I'll just wait. Things like The Lighthouse, it was around in a couple of theaters, maybe for a couple of weeks. I couldn't get out there. And I'm like, well, I'll just, rent it digitally. And it's like, no, that's one that I heard so many great things about the cinematography. I should have been more motive to get out there to see it on the big screen, even though that one isn't that shot, not widescreen, isn't it? Like all square.
No, it's like a 4x3.
Yeah, exactly. But well.
But I think it's also just the fact that we're living in a time where the quantity of content has grown so exponentially because there are just so many more filmmakers out there. There's just so many more ways for stuff to get shown and distributed that it's just, it's hard. There's just, back, going back 50 years, there were some movie screens, and TV was still kind of in its infancy, and that was it. And so the opportunities weren't nearly as big as they are now. And so now it's just like, sure, you can go watch, you can watch it there, you can watch it at home, but there's also all these other things to do. And it's almost overwhelming now trying to figure it all out. And that's, I think, the challenge is trying to find, well, what's the balance and how are you going to, what are you going to prioritize? And yeah, I should have prioritized The Lighthouse too, because, the films that are nominated, I think, for for cinematography generally are ones that I would really like to see on the big screen, because that's, obviously kind of the way that it's meant to be seen, because it's the whole idea of how it's shot and everything.
Right. Well, it's okay. Another 20 years, Jeff Bezos will have drones that fly around and just beam them into your brain. Oh, I want to rent this. Drone flies over your house, shoots it into your brain, and you just watch it like that. There were a couple things that happened today. One was the test footage or camera test footage for The Bat that was posted on Vimeo, is where there was a link to it, but the Batman camera test, and of course, it's such the whole hype machine and marketing and all of that. You're going to have people dissecting that, and of course it's shot, and it's very much in the red tone range, so people like, this looks like the Daredevil. I thought, well, because it's red. Okay, let's get past that. If you were to see this in black and white, would you be thinking the same thing? But there's, how is this similar to Nolan's Batman and all of these things? And I thought, it's just wait, people. Just calm down. But
it's just a costume.
It's just a costume. Yes, exactly. It's like, does this look good on the camera? Yes, it does. Great. Okay. But it means it's the first of many that I'm sure we'll be getting, trickles of bits and pieces as the Batman is in production. So we'll see what direction this goes. But I'm going to go see it one way or another. I mean, that's sort of I've resigned myself to the fact that there's enough talent behind this. Unless something catastrophic happens, I'm most likely going to go see this to see a different version of the Batman story and see how this one plays out. Yeah,
it's one of those things. I looked at the footage and I'm like, wow, it looks very beautiful. I mean, the lighting, the kind of just the way that they're composing the shots, just the costume itself, everything looked really, really cool. So I don't know. I was excited by it, but it was nothing that for me, I'm like, it's, we're not going to really know much about it until more. So, I like where they're going with it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it. I think Matt Reeves has done some interesting stuff with the Apes films, Cloverfield. He's a director who's, I think has kind of found a way to make a little bit of a mark. So I'm curious to see what he's going to do with this one. And I know there's not a whole lot out there yet with it. Although, Colin Farrell's playing the Penguin, and there's a little, I don't know why that's.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like the Danny DeVito
yes,
body type works well for the Penguin. Not to sound terrible, but I just feel like that made more sense. Like I thought that Danny DeVito actually was a really great Penguin. I'm just curious. I mean, we've got the Penguin, Catwoman, the Riddler, Carmine Falcone is back. And so, I don't know. I'm curious. I'm curious to see where we're going to go with this.
Yeah, that's the piece that I guess from this, test footage of trying to get a sense of what stylistic approach are you going to take, whereas Tim Burton was still very much grounded in sort of the comic books, I mean, when having, the Penguin, just stature and all those things very much out of the comic books versus what Nolan did, which was to bring it sort of more gritty real world. So where is Matt Reeves going to take this as far as that scale? Because I remember when Batman Begins came out, somebody telling me, oh yeah, remember how just serious, Tim Burton's Batman seemed compared to the, campy TV show. But then when Nolan's Batman came out, it was like, the Burton stuff seemed, just as campy as the TV show. So where is, Matt Reeves going to fall in that spectrum of embracing sort of the comic book origins of this, or is it going to be, well, we're continuing with this DC mentality of going darker with this? I'm curious. It's a talented cast, and I have enjoyed what Matt Reeves has done. Cinematically, I think he's always entertained me, and I like the stories he tells. So I'm just curious to see, going back to the well one more time with Batman. What do we do to keep this fresh? What do we do to make it new while still honoring clearly the the main story that people want to hear.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, it'll definitely, I think, I'll probably rate it higher than Joel Schumacher's versions. So there's that.
That's true.
All right. Well, let's see. Should we do our trailers?
I guess we should.
Or was there any other news? I think that was it for news.
Yeah, that's probably about all we need to talk about news-wise, I think.
So you get to go first with your trailer because you kind of, even though it hadn't released, you technically posted
I could have waited because it was going to be the A24 rule anyway, but I wanted to make sure I grabbed the A24. So, yes, listeners, A24 posted on Facebook earlier this week. I think it was Wednesday. They posted, hey, this trailer's dropping tomorrow. So I took that and said, this will be my trailer. Sight unseen, I'm going to go with this trailer. And not just because it's A24. It's David Lowery. It is Dev Patel, Alicia Vikander, Joel Edgerton, Sean Harris. This is The Green Knight, coming this May 29th. And it is a fantasy retelling of the medieval story of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which is the whole Arthurian legend. I love adaptations of classical literature, particularly when there isn't an overt attempt to bring it into contemporary elements into it with like A Knight's Tale. Although that is entertaining and fun, I do love sort of going back to the original source material and as far as I can tell here, keeping it rooted in that era and tone. And this one has a very sinister, ominous quality to it. And again, I hate to admit that just about every David Lowery film is on my I want to see but have not seen list. And there are so many of them that I have to, at some point this spring or summer, sit down and get through these because I hear nothing but great things about all of them. And everything says, yes, I should be watching this. And I just have not gotten around to watching any of his films. So I don't want The Green Knight to be the first one, but if it is, so be it. It looks like a great medieval adventure with some mystery to it. In terms of just, I guess, supernatural forces at work here. I don't know. What did you, as someone who in Discord, you said you weren't familiar with this story. What was your sort of impression of this trailer?
It looked bonkers. I mean, I was like, what is going on here? I have no idea, but it looks fascinating. Like, that's the thing that I took away from watching this trailer is like, this looks like a medieval story, but with a fantastical bent that just, I don't know, it really kind of I found incredibly intriguing the way everything was put together, the production design, the costumes, the characters, everything about it just really struck a chord with me. And I was like, I definitely have to watch this movie. It just looks over the top crazy. And so I have not seen much of Lowery's work other than Pete's Dragon, which was a fantastic revisioning of a fairly mediocre / subpar Disney live action / animation film that certainly has its charm as a film, but its story is, it was done at the time when animation or stories with animation were viewed as pretty much, just for kids. And so it worked for me as a kid, but not so much now. Lowery's take on it was like everything that it needed to be to make it really kind of modern and for everybody. So, but regardless, this film does not look like that. This film looks crazy, and I can't wait to see it.
Okay, well, it's the first A24 trailer I've had in a while, and so I'm looking forward to some more summer releases from them. But this one right there, what is that, like right around Memorial Day, that sort of, I guess, the beginning of summer, May 29th, 2020.
Well, I picked another recent trailer that popped just the other day, and I was rather excited to see it come out because I've been kind of jumping back into Wes Anderson and looking at his works some more. I rewatched Grand Budapest Hotel, which I just love. I just revisited Bottle Rocket, and I'm going to kind of work through his filmography because, I needed another list of things to go through movie-wise. So I'm working through those, but in the process, I'm just finding that there is such a charm with his storytelling, and it's not always perfect, but no matter how you slice it, he is creating a very deliberate world and a very deliberate approach that he is doing in his storytelling that I find incredibly compelling. Grand Budapest, I think, is just, at the top. It's just such a wonderful film. But I mean, Rushmore, Royal Tenenbaums, Isle of Dogs, I think Fantastic Mr. Fox, he's got some really fantastic stuff in there. And his new film, which is going to be coming out later, is called The French Dispatch. That is the film that that trailer just dropped. And it gives you a sense of it, but not really a sense of it, because even the trailer kind of gives you chapters, different stories that will be kind of happening over the course of this particular film as you're following this ridiculous cast of people that he has assembled for this. I mean, just let me read through the cast list of people that are in it so far. Benicio del Toro, Adrian Brody, Tilda Swinton, Leah Seydoux, Frances McDormand, Timothy Chalamet, Lena Kudry, Jeffrey Wright, Matthew Almeric, Stephen Park, Bill Murray, Owen Wilson, Liev Schreiber, Elizabeth Moss, Edward Norton, Willem Dafoe, Lois Smith, Saoirse Ronan, Christoph Waltz, Cecily de France, Guillaume Gallienne, Jason Schwartzman, Rupert Friend, Henry Winkler, Bob Balaban, Angelica Houston. And I mean, that's just, it's still going. I mean, it's an incredible list that I think shows this is a storyteller who makes really creative stories, spins unique tales, and puts actors at ease in a really exciting world that they have a lot of fun with. They get to do some really unique things with. It's not just your run-of-the-mill movie. And I mean, just looking at this trailer, I'm like, I don't even know where to begin. It's a fictional newspaper that it looks like it has its various reporters kind of following various stories, and that's kind of what I get out of it. And but the look of it, the uniqueness of everything going on here, the different color palettes and everything. I'm excited. What did you think of this?
Well,
one?
It's a Wes Anderson film, and as somebody who's sort of followed him, I think the first thing I saw was Rushmore, because it was just easier to find in the video store. But I'd heard about Bottle Rocket. I think I ended up seeing Bottle Rocket on TV or on cable, like on HBO or something. So I'd seen those. But then, when you get to Royal Tenenbaums, it's sort of where he really finds his style. You can see it really starting there, and he's just really embraced this, and it works well for him. And I think what really speaks well of him is the fact that you can get somebody like Bill Murray who will always be there. I think since Rushmore, I think I think nearly all the films you've got Bill Murray in quite a bit of them. Actors like Willem Dafoe and Edward Norton, these are talented actors that can take any project they want, and the fact that they continue to return to work with Wes Anderson, I think, speaks very highly of him as a director. The stories he tells, I'm really intrigued by this because it does appear to be, at least from the trailer, we're going to see these multiple stories with sort of a framing device of this newspaper, and clearly there'll be something going on there. But the fact that we do get these, smaller stories, and with really I know he's going to bring something fresh, unique, and entertaining to this. I can't say no to a Wes Anderson, and I know he's not for everybody, and there's something that tonally may turn people off, or that it's too, I don't know, for lack of a better word, cutesy or pretentious or whatever. I don't care, because there's no one that makes films like him, and I always have a great time with whatever story he tells.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, so this will be an interesting one. This is going to be popping right in the middle of the summer. It's going to be probably on my list of birthday movies because it's opening July 24th. Right. So I surely will have that on my list of movies to see on my big movie watching day.
Yeah. Okay.
So there you go, The French Dispatch. And as it's fully titled, The French Dispatch of the Liberty, Kansas Evening Sun.
There you are.
All right. Well, those are the trailers. I guess it's time to do our list.
Yes, it is. And this was like no competition on this one. When I went to go check earlier in the week, and I thought, okay, I'll come back later. No, there was no chance that any of the other selections had, a choice. It was great over the top supervillains hit this one. So like 9 votes to
I found
one.
it.
Well, okay, everything starts with 1 vote. So nobody voted for Adults Starting Over, and one person who's I won't play stereotypes, but maybe Catholic because it's movies about guilt. I don't know, it's either Catholic or Jewish guilt maybe driving that vote. But everybody else wanted great over the top super villains. So,
and that made it there were a lot of pickings also. So I guess it depends on our definitions of supervillains. So I guess we'll find out as we jump in. But you get to go first since you picked your trailer first. So where do we begin?
So with supervillains, I thought I just wanted to go with villains because I think there's so many great villains with supervillains. So my first one is, I guess, well, I got another one that might be super villainy, but my first one, I thought, when I think of super villains, I'm thinking of comic books and cartoony things. And to me, there is no more entertaining and fun, over-the-top villain than Ben Stiller's White Goodman in Dodgeball. He's just ridiculous, but so over the top. And just, I just have a great time with that movie, and I will always bring it when I have an opportunity here. But he's such a villain in a cartoonish way that I had to include him at least as my first entry on my list of quote unquote super villains.
That is a good one, and it's not a steal. So I like it.
I do too, especially when Pete's not here. Takes the pressure off a little bit. No, I've just got one other list to compete against here.
Well, for my first one, I am going with a supervillain.
Okay.
And I feel a little guilty throwing this on the list because it does kind of give the whole story away. Just the fact that this person's a supervillain walking in. But it's such a fun film. I haven't seen it in a while, but it's a great one. It's a family superhero comedy called Sky High from 2005, directed by Mike Mitchell. And there is, maybe I won't say who the supervillain is.
Because it is a bit of a reveal.
It is a surprise. It is a surprise because you don't think that a particular person is the villain, but then all of a sudden it is. And it's a little kind of big as far as the type of villain. So it was fun. I enjoyed that twist in that film. So that's my first pick, Sky High.
I have not seen that in a long time. I think I took Hannah to see that. Yeah, because she would have been like 4 or 5, and she may be a little bit on the young side. But it was Disney. It was superhero family. I mean, it was such a fun concept, and Kurt Russell as the commander. Of having to this whole idea of the family dynamics to it was just so much fun. So yeah, this was one that I think. It's best not to name who the supervillain is, but excellent choice on that one.
Thanks. All right, next for you.
All right. I'm just going with my favorite villains. I'm just going to be honest because who's over the top? And there's some actors that just come to mind when you think over the top. And again, perhaps it's because of the age I was when I saw this movie, because I was in high school. It's just such an odd movie and a villain that's just so bizarre, but Dennis Hopper as Frank Booth in Blue Velvet is one of the most strangest villains or whatever, but he's just so creepy. But I think it's just that it's Dennis Hopper. Anybody else, it would have just been maybe odd, but Dennis Hopper just takes things to another level. And there are just some great quotable moments that I don't think I can quote, or I don't want to quote on the podcast. But yeah, they just stick with you. And so that's my number 2, Frank Booth from Blue Velvet.
It's so funny that you said that, because today, and I don't know why this came to mind. It wasn't really in the conversation at all, but it's just the tone of what somebody said. It instantly made me, it popped right in my head. Heineken, F Heineken, Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yes, exactly. There you go.
Yep. There you go. All right, for my next one, I'm torn between a couple Quentin Tarantino baddies, because he knows how to write some fairly great big ones. The one that I am going to go with is from Kill Bill Volume 1, and it is played by Daryl Hannah. It is Elle Driver, a.k.a. California Mountain Snake. And she is one of the deadly vipers, and she is the one who drops the Black Mamba in. And she has the fantastic fight with Uma Thurman in the trailer, which is fantastic. She also is introduced or not introduced because we kind of see them in the flashbacks, but when she comes in whistling kind of the music from that fantastic Bernard Herrmann. I'm blanking on the name of the movie, but just the great whistling that she does as she's coming down the hallway. Everything that's going on in there, I just think is really just fantastic with her as a character. And she is somebody that I kind of grew up with because, I saw Splash when I was young, and I was always such a fan of her from that. And she's an actress who kind of seemed to struggle a little bit, kind of keeping her career going. And so I think it was just great to see her pop up in this because she was just so good in it.
No, that's a good one.
That's my second one, Kill Bill Volume 1. With
all right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Final pick for you.
I'm just flat out cheating on this one because it's I guess because it's 2 roles, but the same actor. Because when I think over the top, Gary Oldman, you go with Gary Oldman. You go with Gary Oldman with Luc Besson in either The Fifth Element or Leon the Professional. Either Zorg or Stansfield, both totally different characters, but both ridiculously over the top in their insanity. One more cartoonish than the other, but for me, the over the top villain award will always go to Gary Oldman for those movies.
He is so over the top. He's big, and he's
so
great.
Much fun.
It's
yes.
and yeah, but that very over the top. It works really well for this, and I totally agree. So good pick there.
For a long time on my computer, back when you could set like startup sounds and all of that, I had found somewhere on the early days of the internet of Gary Oldman in that scene in The Professional when they're like, he's like, bring me everybody. And they're like, what do you mean everybody? And he's just like, everyone. And that was my startup sound on my computer because it's just a great moment that I thought that's the insanity of that moment that captures it for me. So yes, I maybe I have to go in and pull some audio and make that my ringtone. Maybe it'll be my Andy Nelson ringtone.
People will be like, what is that? What is going on? And you keep screaming everyone.
That's right. Okay, your number 1. Where are we going?
All right, so for my final one, this is a villain that I am a little hard-pressed to say he's completely over the top, but he's definitely big, and I think one of the reasons is because of the way he speaks so eloquently and does such horrific things. It is, of course, Hannibal Lecter, played by the brilliant Anthony Hopkins in The Silence of the Lambs. Yes, there had been a version of Lecter in a previous film, but this became such an iconic version of him, and just everything that he did in it. And he's not even like the central villain of the film. He's kind of he is like the doorway that our hero has to get through in order to actually go and face the final villain. But he does everything so well that it became so iconic. And this was, in our recent conversations about the Oscars, as far as performances that are so short, but they get nominated for Best Actor, and in this case win. It's his presence, I think, is what really kind of makes him stand out. And just, everything that he came up with that character, Fathom,
Chianti, yes.
Chianti.
Yes.
All of that sort of stuff.
That was so in my mind, and I thought, well, is it over the top or not? But it is in that, yes, it's an iconic villain that is really above and beyond your typical villain. Whether it's over the top or not, you could debate that. But no, it's a great supervillain that is just very extreme. And so, yeah, that's excellent choice.
Yeah, I think not so much over the top, but extreme in his actions and the way he does things, because he's a cannibal.
Exactly.
So therefore, it's a little over the top, I guess. So anyway, all right. Well, those are our lists. So some good options that we came up with there.
All right.
All right. So this coming week, we are kicking off a series of French crime films. And for this first one, it is about a prison break. So it seems like that should be an easy starting point, just looking at prison break movies. But I don't know if you've seen it. We're kicking off with Le Trou.
No, it's on my... I think that's on my Criterion list somewhere, if it's in there. I think it might be. I'm not sure. But... So I'm not familiar with this, but so Prison Break sounds good.
Yeah, okay. I think that one will be an easy one. We've got, let's see, so we've got Prison Break. We've got, it's all such prison sorts of things. Like, there's, man, let's see. You've got going down into kind of the catacombs or tunnels underneath things, kind of sewers and stuff. So you could have movies with people running around in sewers,
Yes. Okay. So subterranean exploration, Prison Break. Let's see. What are there other prison tropes? Is there? So is the whole thing? Well, does that give it away if you tell me whether or not the whole thing's set in prison?
Oh no, I don't think it's giving anything away. But yeah, it is very much, it is a prison breakout movie, and the whole crux of the story is, we're going to put a plan in action, we're going to go through with it, and then there's the resolution.
Anything innovative in their prison break attempts or strategies or?
Well, I feel like it's kind of covered under prison breaks,
Anything about the?
Let's see,
is it like mean warden or friendly security guard or?
I don't know if it's a good one, but it starts off with a real prisoner from this thing, kind of saying this was my story. Okay. So it's kind of a biopic, so I don't know if there's something we can do there. I don't know if there's something we can do with films that incorporate real people from their situation into the story. It might be a hard list to put together, but
it's so he's not narrating it, but it's just he's introducing the story.
He kind of introduces it, and it's weird because he's like, this is my story. This is the director so and so put this together, and he kind of it's an odd little introduction that you never really see. That's part of the reason why I may make it
what
too
if
difficult.
we broaden that a little bit, so it's not necessarily a character or somebody related, but just movies that are introduced by somebody not in the story? Or is he in?
Okay.
Oh, he's in the story. Oh, okay. So it's not like the good old Disney.
It's not really narrated.
Yeah. Okay.
Either. It's not. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, there's betrayals. We could do something about betrayals.
Okay.
In context, I don't know if it needs to be in context of prison movies, but prison betrayals.
We can just do okay.
Is that?
We'll see what they do.
It doesn't necessarily have to relate to a prison break, I guess. So we can throw that in there and see.
Okay.
All right, it's a little tricky, but we'll see what people vote on. I have a feeling it'll probably be one of the first
probably.
two.
But hey, we give them options.
So, exactly. All right. Well, that is going up into the Show Talk channel. So for all of you who are our Patreon members, you can jump into the Show Talk channel over in our Discord group, and you can vote for it. And by the time next week rolls around, we will be jumping in on one of these lists. So get your votes in between now and next week. And what else? Anything else? You're always remembering all the messages that we need to say at the end.
Nextreel.com/merch. And I think there's Marvel Movie Minute merch, maybe. I don't know. There's stuff. Go to the website. There's stuff. And we'll just leave it at there's all kinds of new things coming up, because we've got a film board coming later this month. We've got all kinds of things. So go to the website, buy merch.
Yeah, we got Marvel Movie Minute. Incredible Hulk season 2 is coming up soon, so all sorts of stuff. So check it out, and you can also find our Patreon page from there, and you can support us, and that helps us just kind of keep things moving. So thanks, everybody. We really appreciate it, and I guess that's it. So see you later.
Hondo.